Hi, and welcome to this week's Macanori, where we're changing it up slightly. I've gone through all my short stories for now, there will be more. I'm turning to my novels now, so I'm going to be reading to you this time, the first chapter from my supernatural crime thriller the first in my series, The Headhunter, and this is from the Ellie Lawrence series. And Ellie she's a character out of my Bond series, which you can see on the shelf behind me. And this is the first volume in her own adventures. And it's inspired by a story that my dad wrote when he was at primary school about a serial killer who chopped people's heads off and displayed them on the mantelpiece. So you're in for some darkness. But my dad's teacher was absolutely horrifying and says, "Don't you ever write anything like that again." And my dad never picked a pen up for the rest of his life, which is quite sad. So I brought this to life for my dad. And I lost my dad a couple of years ago, as some of you will know, to Alzheimer's, and some of the proceeds from the sales of The Headhunter will always go to Alzheimer's. So I hope you are sitting comfortably as I start the adventure, or start the hunt, as I should say, since it's called The Headhunter. So I'll be reading to you today the prologue. "Look at them, bitch!" He grabbed her hair and yanked her head up, forcing her to look. "You did this. If you hadn't conned them with your magical snatch, they wouldn't be here now, would they? And neither would you." He raised his left arm and backhanded her across the mouth, blood and teeth hitting the dirt floor as her head snapped to one side. She dropped her chin to her chest, her mouth throbbing from the latest assault, her left eye swollen shut, her right eye tinging the scene with a crimson haze. Her shoulders ached, and her wrists were raw from the hours he'd kept her tied to the chair. The smell rising from her body disgusted her, but she'd had no choice. The branding iron had caused her to lose control of her bowels. She focused her rose-tinted gaze on the front of her dress, which lay in tatters against her damp skin. Her breasts, swollen and scorched, the skin burned off, visibly throbbed as her body fought to deal with the trauma. She raised her head to see him advancing on her again, a knife in his hand. Her body no longer responded, its pain threshold eviscerated hours ago. "We'll see how your magic snatch deals with being properly fucked, shall we, you fucking cheating whore?" He grabbed her hair again, forcing her to look at him. "I want you to look into the eyes of every single man you fucked when you should have been home fucking me." She stared into his eyes. "Fuck you," she said, her mouth too swollen and battered to form the words, and with the last bit of her energy she spat in his face. Blood, broken teeth, but most of all, hate. Hate for the years of abuse she'd suffered at his hands, abuse that had forced her into the arms of other men whose heads adorned the mantelpiece, their dead eyes staring back at her. "I'm so sorry," she muttered to them. "Too late for that now, bitch." "Wasn't talking to you," she said, an involuntary smile ripping open the wounds on her lips. "You can rot in hell. You ungrateful whoring bitch. After everything I've done for you and that brat, I bet she's not even mine, is she? I'll have to sort her when I finish with you, won't I?" Her head snapped up, her maternal instincts triggered. "Don't you touch her, you bastard!" She screamed at him, adrenaline infusing her body as she struggled against her bindings. "Rabbit!" she screamed. "Rabbit! Run!" "Mama?" came a small voice from the corner of the room. "Run, Rabbit! For God's sake, run!" "She won't be running anywhere, bitch. Not for a very long time." He strode over to the corner and she heard a scream and watched, eyes wide, as he lifted her 4-year-old daughter up by her hair and brought her into the light. "No!" she screamed as the mangled legs of her precious baby dangled in the firelight. Now, Rabbit, I think it would serve you well to watch what happens to people who cheat on their partners. You see, my dear, such people are evil and need to be punished. So watch and learn, little one, as this is what will happen to you very, very soon." "Don't you dare! She's yours!" "Oh, really? And how do you expect me to believe that when you and your wandering pussy have been at it for years?" He shoved her knees apart and ripped her skirt away, tearing off the silk panties she wore. "Very nice," he said, lifting them up with the tip of his knife and dangling them in the air. "These are what whores wear." He dropped them onto her shattered legs. "And this is the punishment for whores." He placed the tip of the knife between her legs, and she shuddered as the cold steel connected with her flesh. She braced herself, but how could she protect herself from this? "I'm sorry, Rabbit," she said, looking towards her daughter, but the child wasn't looking at her. To her horror, she was staring transfixed at her husband, a look of awe on her angelic face. "Oh, dear God," she muttered and closed her eyes, her body slumping forward towards its fate. She screamed as he thrust the blade inside her, over and over. The warmth of the blood spilling from her body soothed the ache in her belly as the knife tore up her insides. Sweat beaded her brow as nausea crashed through her in waves, the familiar faintness grasping for her body until she finally gave in. "Now, to finish," he said, and pulling back his wife's head, he took a length of wire from his back pocket. He clasped hold of the wooden spindles at each end and twisted the wire around her neck. He gradually pulled it tighter until it sliced through tissue, muscle, ligament, and bone. "Say goodbye to your mother," he said, dangling the severed head in front of the little girl. "Bye-bye, Mama," the child said, and took the head in her hands. She kissed her mother on the lips. "Now, let's put it with the others, shall we?" The girl nodded. Satisfied, he placed his wife's head in the centre of the mantelpiece, flanked on either side by the 6 heads of the lovers she'd taken over the years. He turned and looked down at the broken child. "I had to do what I did, even to you. Understand?" The little girl nodded again. "Now, my work here is done." Looking straight into the child's eyes, he reached behind him and plucked a gun out of his waistband. He brought it in front of him, positioned the barrel where he wanted it, and pulled the trigger. And that is the prologue to The Headhunter. Dark, yes, sets the scene, most definitely. But will you get the twist? I hope you'll tune in next week for chapter 1. Goodbye.